Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Laughs, where I get the privilege of interviewing some amazing people who are part of the Seattle improv community through Jet City Improv. And today we're going to talk to Doug Willott and Alicia Wickstead. So we're going to invite them to join us right now through the magic of video. Come on in. There's Doug. And there's Alicia. Yay! Hi, it's good to see your faces. Hi. We're going to talk today about the past and future of improv in Seattle. So to start, let's hear about how both of you got started doing improv and being a part of the greater improv scene in our city. Doug, let's start with you.
Yeah. Okay.
You're at the top.
I got my start. I was a 15-year-old kid who loved watching Jet City Improv. I ended up going to see a show, and just like halfway through watching the show, I was like, I have to do this. I just have to. And so I've told my students this, that I think in a year and a half, this is literal, I probably saw 50 shows in a year and a half, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But it was, that was my education on a lot of it. Then eventually I auditioned. I was 17 when I got in.
Wow.
Which I think Alicia, as I recall, was that how old you were when you got into comedy sports as well? Which I don't want to spoil the story. But yeah, I got into Jet City Improv at that age, and I've just been going since.
Cool. Alicia, what about you?
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same as Doug, actually. The first theater sports show I saw was when I was like 14-ish, and then I started taking classes when I was 15 and Unexpected Productions, and got into the ensemble when I was 17, and I'm 43. So that's how long I've been doing it.
Yeah. So we're talking like early 90s, mid 90s? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. What would you say you have, how have you developed as an improviser since when you first started? Obviously, you could sum it up probably by saying you've gotten better, but what are some of the things that you have learned, or ways that you've really grown as an improviser?
For me, a big thing is I've stopped trying to quote figure it out. I think I've reached a point where it's like I love learning about improv and discussing improv. I could do that forever, and I have. But I realized that I think that I really started coming into my own probably when I was just realized that it was not about trying to solve improv, but trying to find out who I was on stage and what I could bring with it, and really just cutting loose. And I think that the further I've gone with it, the more I've embraced just getting really stupid on stage and quit trying to be smart on stage, which has been, I think, incredibly enjoyable.
What are some of the things that you would describe as the stupidest, the funny stupid?
Price Nixon, that Mandy Price and I do, except it's not us. It's two people at Tacoma that look like us. And we overly push that end of the thing. But getting on stage and deliberately just trying to mess with each other on stage, or even for me, Alicia, you know this because we've done a lot of shows together. I've reached a point where I really wanted to come up with more and more ridiculous names on stage, because I felt like it would help me be okay with getting sillier while rehearsing shows and everything like that. So I think that to me is just letting go of the part of me that wants to do quote unquote good improv, and part of me that can embrace and go, you know what? If we're doing this show called Love Titanic, which is cross between Love Boat and Titanic, it's a musical that Alicia and I did. I'm going to play a character named Glorious Champion, because it's just so ridiculous and over the top. And with everything serious and good that can go on in the show, there's no way that I will underplay, or I will try to overthink it if my character name is a Glorious Champion.
Yeah, totally. Alicia, what about you? How have you developed as an improviser since day one, 17?
Well, I think going back to my initial training, it was very much narrative-based improv stories. And I feel like that's been a through line for me as far as something I've been really interested in. I like genre work, that kind of stuff. But I think even with that, early on, as a less experienced improviser and also as a younger improviser, I was definitely a lot more interested in finding the laughs, probably a more selfish performer as far as like wanting the audience to love me, and like having after a show going over it in my head and what I could have done better and blah blah blah. And I think now, because I've been doing it for a long time, I think the audience is very important and I want to make them happy, but I'm less focused on that and more focused on the collaborative aspects of improv, wanting to enjoy playing with others and creating those stories together. Also, as a younger improviser, I wanted to do any and all shows that were available, regardless of their format or who was playing or like any of that stuff. And I still love playing with anybody because it's always a different experience. But I do now, in my my sort of old lady grumpiness improviser, I tend to like okay, I'm really only interested in shows that sort of inspire me, maybe something I haven't done before, people I haven't worked with before, or people that I have worked with before and really enjoy doing shows with them. And so I guess I'm a little pickier about what and it's not a quality thing. It's just sort of what feels fun to me in the moment as far as taking on a show.
Yeah, that makes sense. Would you say it's generally true that if you're having fun, then the audience is going to have fun?
I feel like for me personally, yes, for sure. I think over the years, sometimes I see performers, improv and otherwise, that sometimes are like focused on having fun, whether an audience would really enjoy, like too self-indulgent, for sure.
Yeah.
But yes, I usually feel like when I'm having fun, because part of when I'm really having fun, it tends to be those times where I feel like I'm very connected to the audience and to my fellow players.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I was going to say, like, I feel like there's a risk reward on almost everything we do in improv, right? When it comes to like, if you're having fun, then the audience is having fun. I feel like that is true probably, I don't know, 90 to 95% of the time. Right. And the other 5%, at least you're still having fun. But when I see the shows where people aren't worried about having fun, I would say that they are not batting 90% as far as how much I'm enjoying it in the audience. So for me, like, then I definitely go with that attitude of like, then go have fun. There's a much better chance that the show will be good. And in case of failure, I can at least walk off stage giggling, going, I messed up. But, as opposed to those shows. I mean, we've been in those shows or played with those performers where it's like, everything has to go right or they get really upset. Or when stuff does go wrong, it's like a lecture afterward and like overanalyze, as opposed to just like, it's a note, It's good to know what went wrong, obviously, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I'm past the phase where I want to be around people who want not just beat themselves up, but want to beat up the whole show when a mistake happens. So give me the fun, bring it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've been in shows where, and not necessarily like whole runs of shows, but individual nights of shows where like halfway through the show, I'm like, I'm not having fun. Like, I don't know what the audience's experience is, but I'm not having a good time. And I think it took me a while to realize like, well, then I can have a better time. Like, it doesn't have to be, okay, well, the show's shot now. Like, if it's not fun, there's always time to make it more fun, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, if we asked this last time and it was fun. So what are tips that you would give either someone who's new to improv or that you would give yourself starting out as an improviser? Aside from like having fun and the things we've already talked about, what would you tell someone who's new?
I want to hear Alicia's answer first.
Oh, yeah. I would say, I think in some ways, maybe it just depends on like what kind of a thinker you are. But I think what I see with students, especially, is that they're taking in all of this information and they are trying as best as they can to not break improv and to do it right. And you can really you can see less experienced performers, even when you're playing with them, they're engaging with you, but you see how in their head they are about whether it's trying to do a format correctly or remember notes that they were given maybe from the last time. they did a show. And I feel like no matter how many rules or guidelines or what have you, how much feedback you've gotten, all of that is always in your head. But the more as a performer you can just focus on the moments as the moments come along, the better. And that's kind of the same advice I would have given to my younger self. Like I said, like trolling for laughs and stuff, is to just play what's happening on stage and not try to think too far ahead to the next moment, because that's when the best stuff comes up.
Yeah, like not trying to forecast or like trying to transmit to other people where the scene needs to go, but just like
trying to drive it, like force your idea. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's a poem with a line that's I don't tell stories, I let them tell themselves. It's called Miss New Booty by Bubba Sparks. It's actually like something I think about on stage of like, just play the character, live in the story, react and be proactive with your character, as opposed to like, say, like earlier, it was like trying to figure out, all right, what's the story? What am I going on? Trying to like really crank it. Whereas like now I love just almost like relaxing in a story as a character and just, living in it. And then when anything happens that would affect my character, that just make a decision. Mm-hmm. And it feels like that's so much easier way of storytelling. And I feel like early, especially with students, and this is something that I'm a right brain. I'm a chaos brain person a lot more, and I find that especially with like the type A, the people who want everything in order. One of the big lessons that I think it's good for people to learn is like, it's not about trying to fix things. It's not about trying to stop trouble before it happens. Let the trouble happen. It's about just do things and then let everything go wrong. One of the things I tell people early on is I say don't improvise like don't improvise like a project manager where you're trying to organize and make sure everything goes right, because a project manager's job is to make sure there are no interesting stories to tell at the end of the tale.
That's a good point.
And whereas improv is like, no, let everything go wrong. And yeah, early Doug, I'd be like, just relax more, just enjoy it more, and let the scene guide you rather than you trying to rigidly fix the scene.
Mm-hmm. How would you say that improv has impacted, and I guess it's hard because you don't know the parallel timeline, but how do you think that improv has impacted you as a person off stage? Like having 20 plus years of improv under both of your belts, like how do you think that what tools has it given you as a human being?
Personal confidence is a huge part of it, and not just like within, but this is going to sound maybe odd, like not just my own personal confidence, but the ability to project it even if I'm not feeling it. With improv, there's a lot of fake it while you make it on stage, and totally. I think I've taken that off stage in a lot of ways, which has been very helpful in my everyday life, especially because I'm, just as internally socially awkward and anxious, and I'm dealing with a lot of the delightful tornadoes of emotions that everybody does, but having the ability to just like, boom, I'm confident, I'm on, we're doing this, has been really, really helpful.
I love the phrase that you just said of fake it while you make it. That's like, because I always think like the fake it till you make it misses out on the fact that like while you are faking it, life is still happening. So I think that's like certainly something that's very true that I've also gained, even though I haven't been doing improv as long. Alicia, what about you?
I think some of what Doug said is the same for me. It's hard to say, I think, whether you inherit traits are what make you a good improviser to begin with, or if improv brings those traits out, or like they were never there. I don't know. I think in some ways it's made me more intuitive or trust my intuition. I think it also reminds me to be a better listener. And in some ways more empathetic, I think, too, just like really trying to get in touch with what other people are feeling.
I think improv taught me to say yes to things. I think I spent a lot of my like young years and even into, because I started doing improv, I started taking classes when I was maybe like 26, and I think I had just spent a lot of time being like, well, that probably won't work. Like, no, how about no? And I think improv taught me like, oh, you can actually just come from a place of saying yes first and then figuring it out, as opposed to just like shooting things down. But all right, so you two have done a lot of shows together. So what are some of the long form shows you've been in together, and favorite moments, or sort of like maybe in retrospect cringy moments, or things that are just like things that have lingered for you?
I love performing with Alicia because I feel like so many of my characters, like in general, this isn't anything specific yet, but like so many of my characters are just filled with random bullshit, and Alicia will always call my characters on their bullshit, which is what I want. I'm like, great, I love it. But like, I feel like Lise, we did a lot of really good stuff together.
When was Lise?
Lise was 8 or 9
Was it
years ago
10?
now, which was a
Maybe
takeoff
10.
of Rent. 10, yeah.
Maybe. The first show we ever did together at Jet City, anyway, was Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
The Frank Miller.
Directed by Ian Shem.
Yeah, is sort of an improvised. Sin City would be what it was a takeoff of. Yeah, Doug and I would say Doug specifically, and I feel like we have very different energy both as people and as improvisers.
Yeah.
But that we complement each other very well, and that because I tend to be, I've never been a performer who can find like weird moments and play with like different energy. I tend to be kind of regimented. I'm not like super playful personality wise. I'm a little more of a
you're more of an order Muppet, and Doug is more of a chaos Muppet.
Yes, for sure. And I think so I love Doug's chaos Muppet energy because it's so fun to play with, and the way we react off each other is it's super fun. Yeah. I also love Tannic was a show that we did together.
Yeah, Love Tannic was great.
Which is great.
Also, Doug, you directed, but I think also were in Every Movie's a Musical.
Yes.
Alicia? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that.
And Alicia, I knew, like, so I'll tell us something really quick of why I love Alicia Wickstead. I, in my head before the audition, anything, I was like, I knew that she was someone who would most likely get into the show just because creative musical improv, loves her movies, it's just right up her alley. But at the auditions, I still really do like to put everyone through everything, make sure I'm not playing favorites, make sure I'm seeing all the angles. And I remember, Alicia, I gave you to do Die Hard in the audition process, but I threw a wrench in it that would make it so you'd have to break Die Hard in order to do it, the scene. And because within the show, you have to let go of the actual movie. You have to let go of what you know about the film. And this is a legit fact what I'm about to say. Both Alicia and I are obsessed with Die Hard. Both of us are huge on it. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to throw Die Hard, see if she can make sure she can break Die Hard. And like, without a beat, you just started doing what the scene needed, throwing Die Hard to the wind. And I'm like, yeah, Alicia Wickstead is perfect. She is exactly what this show needs. I always knew that, but it was still like, I was in awe in that moment. Like, gosh, she's so good.
Oh,
true. Doug, I did not audition for that show because I don't know anything about movies. And then when I went to go see it, I walked out and I was like, well, I still don't know anything about movies, but that was a great show.
No, you have to throw everything you know about movies away because that was one of the things about that show is like, the audience comes in, nobody wants to watch a show and feel like, well, I'm glad everyone who knows this movie is liking it.
Right. No one wants to see the replaying of a movie on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say I have a similar experience with Doug casting him in Britain's Baking Challenge, our first go round.
Alan Corker.
What?
Alan Corker.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Because I don't remember the audition specifically because I just knew that I was going to cast you. Let's just be honest. But what I loved about watching you in that, and I love both of you in that show, but through the rehearsal process and through the performances, Doug just has this amazing energy to respond in scenes or to initiate things that would never, just given my personality, would never occur to me, would never come out of my mouth, in some ways seem completely out of left field, and then always fit in the moment really beautifully and tie in with the character that he's created. And that was the same with your character choices and with your baking choices in the show. You know, like I would, and so, which were sometimes went horribly awry, but a lot of times because
like
we
that
were
dehydrated banana,
the infamous dehydrated banana. But oftentimes Doug would end up making something where, watching the show and watching him make it, I would thinking like, that's gonna taste awful. That's the worst thing I'm gonna put in my mouth. And then after the show, I'd be like, I never would have put any of these ingredients together, and yet they are perfect.
I think it's possible that Doug won more, but also failed more in bakes.
Yeah,
You know
because he took bigger risks.
Like, I don't think I ever won. All my bakes were like, well, this is a bake. But that thing that with the, just a word to everyone out there, if you mix dehydrated pulverized banana with water, you get slime.
But raspberries worked really well. The dehydrated raspberries worked.
Oh, those were delicious.
Great.
Yeah, the banana was an abomination.
I want to bring up something really quick about that show, Alicia, that I really liked. Alicia, as you directed it, you gave us the instruction of, like, don't worry about making a good bake. Like, about, like, it's the show. And it was so, I've talked about this, but I was so fascinated because I took that note to heart. My beautiful chaos brain was like, great, I'll try things. And I remember, like, one rehearsal even where it's like, flour was the only dry ingredient I was going to use. Like, everything else wet, because it was like a wet Thomas or something we made. So I was like, no sugar, just honey. And I had to put so much goddamn honey in whatever it was. And I remember, like, in the show, though, there was, like, people who would, there was people, one person in particular, who would get, like, really actually upset when I'd make some terrible bakes. And I don't just mean, like, the banana stuff was terrible and anger-inducing regardless.
Sure.
That was a don't do it, people. But, like, there's, like it fascinates me, the balance of people where it's like, I'm like, great, what a good note. I'll do whatever, and the bakes might be terrible. And other people are like, I will try that, except my bakes have to be good. Like, that's what I like about you, Alicia, though, is that you're willing to, even if we talk about, like, being the different side of the Muppet coin, you're more than willing to spark the chaos. You're more than willing to jump into the chaos. And, like, I see you really just embrace both sides of it really well.
Yeah. And I'm especially, because it's less my inclination as an improviser, it comes to me less naturally. I'm always really excited by people that are able to operate in that kind of chaotic, but in a controlled, experienced performer, non-indulgence kind of way, that they can take and run with it, and it's this really wonderful, fun energy, and that they hone it like a weapon, because they know how to, which doesn't mean there's any sort of premeditation. It's just that experience of a performer and knowing the point where it's gonna help what we're doing on stage the most. Yeah,
there's definitely a tipping point where chaos becomes like unable to be reined in.
Yes,
but I think that also speaks to, and all three of us have had the chance to cast a long form, but that's one of the things that it's like all about, is like making sure that you have enough people in the life raft who are total chaos and enough people in the life raft that are like a little bit orderly.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's an interesting process. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit, since you've both been around the improv scene in Seattle for so long, what are ways, not that, like, you kind of on a more macro level, like, what are ways that you've seen improv change in Seattle? And then we'll talk about where you think it could go from here. So,
Well, I think when Doug and I first, Doug's a little bit younger than me, but I think the scene was kind of similar when we first started at our respective improv houses at the time. It was very much, it was sort of unexpected productions in Jet City, and there were very few people doing improv independent of those two places, and I think in part it was because of the lack of venues for doing that sort of thing. And so the first time, so I had already been a member of UP for something like, I don't know, 15 years or something before I did my first Jet City show, and it was because Ian Shemp asked me if I would come over and audition for Shades of Grey. And after that, I just, for a long time, would do stuff at both organizations and play. And over the years, you know, RIP Pocket Theater, but they were especially a great venue for allowing more performance opportunities, and just seeing, and that, you know, and Comedy Sports would be another theater that's come about in the years since we started. But even with the Pocket not being there anymore, continually seeing more opportunities for small groups to get together, you know, that can't afford to start a company and host a space and all of that, to see them doing different projects, and to see there be more opportunities, more people getting into improv, more formats being explored and brought about, like Bandit, for example. There's a lot of great stuff happening, and I hope venues allowing that continues to be the case, because I think the more improv there is, the more resources there are. It just makes the community so much fuller, so much more exciting, so many more things to see and potentially be a part of, and I love that.
The definitely formats is a big one, because I mean, also when we were both back, I mean, it was, you know, unexpected, Jet City, and you know, I feel like every 2 years Comedy Court pops up and does 8 shows and then disappears for 2 years. But they were around back then too, and also it was all short form.
Almost entirely.
And seeing that, I would say, well, the audiences definitely still go for short form, and like I brought up to people at, you know, corporations don't call up and say, what long form do you got going? Bring it into my company. They want us to bring in the short form, make it interactive, which makes total sense. I'm all for it. But I really like seeing now, almost like we're in this next phase where it was all short form, and then it was short form with the narrative long forms and the experimental long forms. And now with the community base coming in and everything, there's almost like this, the last couple of years in the Pocket with what Clayton and Sarah helped foster, it's almost like, what form do you want to do? Just do it. And I think the community has really embraced that. So we're not just seeing up-and-comers come out and do either long-form heralds or just narrative. We're all seeing, like, people who have just started doing their own shows also be like, what if we do a show, but it's about we're both in a bathtub? Cool. You know, it's like, and it's just really fun to see everyone just embrace, like, what do we want to do? Let's do it at a sooner and sooner level in their career.
Yeah,
definitely. The dumbest thing I've ever done on stage happened at the Pocket Theater, and it was 5 Guy Fieri's.
Yeah.
And it was me and you and 3 other people.
I was only 4, because I've done it 3 times now, and every time one person has canceled.
Okay, well, it was definitely
Kinsey and Graham were the other 2.
Okay, and we just all showed up dressed like Guy Fieri, acting like Guy Fieri, doing improv.
Yep.
And it wouldn't have happened if we didn't have a space where you could just, like, take a totally dumb risk, and I'm glad that we were able to do that.
Yeah. It was
dumb.
I need to do more Fieri. Fieri.
Yes.
Fieri sounds better, but it is Fieri.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot. I still have a picture of that, like, pops up on my, like, do you remember this date every now and then from Facebook, and I'm like, what a day that was.
Alicia, we have wigs and sunglasses if you ever want to join us.
Okay, noted.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You gotta wear them flipped around to the back of your head.
All right.
I threw on a goatee. I think I got, like, a shirt with flames. It was really a lot.
Yeah.
I think as for the future of improv, I don't know. I want to see the community continue to grow, see people take risks. I also love seeing groups come together. Death and Taxes is a great example. Like, there's a lot of great duos that have come out of people that I never would have necessarily put together, trying different things and continuing different formats. Price Nixon is a great example. I've always loved seeing Mandy Doug perform together.
Book
That's a
Club
great
is another.
example.
I mean, I would have
Book
put those
Club.
two together, but they're still kind of a long-standing duo.
Yeah, Gloom Whisper, if I may be so bold.
Gloom Whisper's great.
It's just me and Ian. But just like one of my groups, Blood Squad,
Mm-hmm.
I think our part of our coming together is enjoying performing with each other and enjoying doing the improvised horror format. But part of it came out of that time where there weren't a lot of groups yet, and we wanted to do our own format and do our own thing, and we had to like pull money together and rent venues and that kind of stuff. And unfortunately now with like the pocket not existing, it's probably going to have to be more people getting creative with what can they do with a space, what will bring in audience, what can they afford, how can they rent space and still make it affordable to their audience. But I really hope that groups continue to try, because so many wonderful things have come from that.
Yeah,
And there are a lot of spaces that still exist where you can do that you can rent and do shows. 10 years ago, Lauren Skelton and I, when we were still performing as the She Spot, rented out the campfire at Camp Long, which is like $50 for the night. And we did a show. So there's definitely still spaces. That's very true.
I love it.
Doug, anything else that you would hope to see?
I really like
dreams?
seeing how many of the people who are getting into it going to all the different venues and playing. I think Comedy Sports has the Other Theater, which has been really good for bringing people there. Duos at Unexpected, I think, is such a great place where it's not just that no matter where you've taken classes, no matter where you're coming up, you go and do duos. I also love about duos the fact that you'll see something like Alicia Wickstead performing with someone who's doing their second show ever. And that I love that. I would love to see more of that. I'd love to see more like veterans and people who are just getting their paid performance stage legs under them, like just teaming up and going. Because I also think that for me, I love playing with people like in their first year of doing paid performances just as much as people I've played with for a long time, because there's no one else is going to push you in new directions that no one's told them not to go yet. And so I'd love to see more of that.
Was my very first time performing.
Was it really?
Duos was my,
Was it She Spot?
Yeah. And that was why we came up with that name, because Lauren and I were in Justin Sun's 301 class back when Jet City just had like maybe 3 levels and then the performance series. So it was our we'd been improvising a total of maybe 18 weeks, and we were the only 2 women in the class. And we were talking with Justin, and he was like, "The 2 of you should just perform. Go do a duo." And we were like, "Oh, okay. We don't know." And then we signed up. It was like January 20th, 2009, I think. Yeah. So, I think that's actually the day that Obama was inaugurated. I don't think it was that day, but maybe it was definitely like early mid-January. Oh, just a moment to think about Obama. One thing that I hope to see is improv collaborating with other forms of art. I did a show called Dreamland Sinkhole. I think maybe one.
Yeah, I've done one of them.
Yeah, I've done a couple.
Which is a collaboration of visual art and improv, and also maybe a musician. But it was so cool and weird, and it just like opened up improv to a wider audience and brought us into the world of visual arts. So I think that's one thing that I would love, is just to see more, not just more collaboration amongst the like different houses, but with other types of art. Would be cool. I
don't know if you guys can see the poster over my shoulder here.
Yeah.
It's from an improv festival in Vienna that my husband and I, before he was my husband, both did something like 10 years ago. And the Europeans are always ahead of the curve with the coolest shit, in my opinion. But that was an example of a festival that had improvised music, painting, dance, all sorts of different art forms, collaboratively. Eating. There was actually improvised cooking and eating that influenced scene, like all kinds of stuff like that. And I agree with Laura. It would be really cool to see more of that. And whether it's improvised, whether it's other forms of improvised art or art combined with improv.
Or scripted theater. I think, did either of you ever do Trespass?
Yeah.
Yes.
where we like performed on the sets of other plays that were running in different places.
Yes.
That's something else that I think would be so fun to explore.
Yeah. Environmental.
Yeah. Just because you never, I mean, even if you have some, sort of set pieces in an improv show that you're working on, you never have like a full set. Like when I did Trespass, there was like a full working kitchen. It's like, well, we'd never have this. So yeah, that'd be fun. We're going to play a little game. Are you ready? It has nothing to do with anything that we just talked about. It's just a guessing game. Okay. It's called This or That. So I'm going to give you a thing, and then you have to decide, is this a comic character, like a comic strip character from the 1930s, or a racehorse that's been involved in the Kentucky Derby?
Great.
Okay. You ready? Smarty Jones.
I'm going to say,
Go
ahead.
Go
30s
ahead.
comic book character.
I'm also going 30s comic book character.
That is a horse.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
For a horse.
All right.
That's a horse. Okay. The Ambassador.
Horse.
Yeah, my first instinct says horse as well, so you're probably about to say comic book character, but I'll stick to horse.
It's a
I
comic book
say horse.
character.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, and actually there was a big controversy because there was also a comic book character called the Little King, and those two were like maybe the exact same comic, but each of the different newspaper like giants in the 30s, so like Hearst and whoever, they were like, I got this one first. But anyway, okay. Just Jake.
Horse.
Comic book character.
Comic book character.
Yes.
Alicia.
I just did the opposite with that. That was,
Okay.
yeah.
Ferdinand.
Bull.
Bull. But I know there's the poem, but comic book character?
Yeah, I'll go comic.
That's actually both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the comic book character was just FERD apostrophe NAND, but I'm gonna give it to you for both.
Oh wow, I'm a little afraid to Google that.
Weepeem.
Can you spell?
Yeah, WEE space capital PEEM. Weepeem.
Can you use it in a sentence?
I can't.
I'm going to go with a comic book character.
I'm going to go with racehorse because it sounds like two owners combining their names or something.
Yeah, like someone named like Wenwietta and someone named like Pemberley.
Yeah, sure.
That's a comic book character.
Damn it.
I'll tell you, if that was a horse, that's
These
a
are
terrible name
hard.
for a horse, because you know how you make your money off of winning racehorses is you stud farm them after they win.
Yeah.
And so if I was like, look at this winning racehorses, who will I have to stud with my mare? Weepeem. No.
Not Weepeem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Candy Tycoon.
Oh.
App.
I'd say racehorse.
Yeah, I'm also going racehorse.
That's a racehorse. Yeah, that's a racehorse. Silver Prospector.
I'm going to go horse.
I'm going to go cartoon.
That one is a horse.
Okay.
But I think believably it could be a
That'd be
cartoon.
the
All right,
worst.
we have to have one more. Scorchy Smith.
Go comic.
Comic.
That's a comic for sure. Yeah. Good job, both of you.
Thank you.
This one, American Face.
I'd say racehorse.
I'm going to go racist horse.
It's a racehorse.
Yeah.
It's one of the potential contenders from Japan to be in the Kentucky Derby this year, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Thunder Gulch.
I feel like that's a cartoon comic.
Yeah, I do too.
I feel like I've heard it.
That's a horse.
Damn it.
Yeah, that's a horse and also a place. I mean, it could be a place.
Yeah.
Okay, we have two more. Mr. Monomoy.
I'm going to go cartoon.
Yeah, same.
It's a horse. Can you imagine the audacity of giving your horse like a title?
You say Mister?
Mr.
Mr.
Monomoy.
I don't know if there's audacity for Mister.
Well, I guess Mr. Ed is a Mr.
I mean, like if it was like Professor Monomoy, I'm like,
Sure.
That I could get behind.
Because like when I play
Oh, you-
Clue, I'm like, what
Yeah.
is he a professor of?
Mhm.
Well, horse studies.
No, it's fair.
Obviously.
What else would he be a professor of?
Zoology.
Okay, the last one is Salome, spelled Salomey.
I feel like that's a racehorse.
Yeah, I hope it's a horse. No, I hope it's a cartoon, but I think it's a horse.
That is a cartoon character.
Okay.
It's the pig from Lil Abner.
Oh.
And apparently the name is supposed to be a pun on Salome, the biblical character, and salami, which is made
Salami.
of pigs.
That's
So
sad.
that was a hot tie with both of you getting 4. So
Oh, you kept track.
I did. I kept score this time around. A great job for both of you.
Kids
Any
love
final
biblical
thoughts?
characters.
About improv, we're actually gonna I'm gonna give you a chance to think about the last question while I plug our website, and I guess that question is what is something that you would like to see the other person do in a show?
Oh,
It could be a character, it could be whatever. Okay.
okay. And we're going to think about it and you're going to talk.
You think about it. I'm going to
Okay.
plug a couple of things. The first one is I'm going to plug our website, which is jetcityimprov.org, which is where you can find out about other shows that you can watch from the comfort of your own home and other things that are happening in our Jet City Improv world. And you can also, if you wanted to throw a little money our way, you can catch us on Venmo at Jet City Improv. So both of those should be pretty easy to remember because it's just the name of the theater, Jet City Improv. And if you enjoyed watching this, maybe throw a couple of dollars at us through our Venmo. It helps to support the theater and also the amazing programs that we run and will continue to run to help incarcerated youth, children experiencing chronic conditions and life circumstances. So a lot of cool stuff to check out. All right, Alicia, what would you like to see Doug do?
It's a really good question because I don't like answering questions like that because it makes it sound like something that it's hard to not make it sound critical.
Oh, sure. I guess like what's
do you know
something
what I
you've
mean?
never seen him do that you think would be fun to watch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to think, I don't know. There's very little. I feel like there's very little I haven't seen Doug do on stage, which is one of the wonderful things about Doug. I don't know.
About like the wonderful things about Tigger is that
yeah.
wonderful thing.
Bouncy.
Fun. I don't know. Maybe I think it would be fun to see him do improvised dance. Just dance and I feel like he would be very passionately committed to it and very sincere, and I feel like that would be really fun to watch.
Okay, great. Doug, what about you?
I thought of 2 answers. I'm gonna go with the first one I thought of, and I don't. This isn't a solid idea yet, but it must be at some point. I've decided. Some sort of show where you are a cross between what I would call the Great and Powerful Oz and Jigsaw. Where like you have like all the power and control over the characters and maybe audience members, who knows how the show would go, but they have to pass your tests and prove their worth, or there will be consequences
I love
if they fail, as well as rewards if they succeed.
This is also almost like intersecting with like Double Dare.
Yeah, which I guess is a cross between Saw and Wizard of Oz.
Kind of is.
Sure.
Yeah. Obviously, I love that for a lot of reasons.
I just love the idea of like, especially like, I would want to play up the villainous aspect of you, because that is something that I've seen you do a ton of stuff on stage, and I think with most improvisers, most shows we do, we don't get a lot of opportunity to just go pure villain.
Yes.
And I know it's something that I've seen you do a few times, and I really enjoy seeing. So I'm like, what if you just built a show where you get to do it every night?
Oh,
great.
I would love
it.
I would
do you
absolutely
want
love
to
it.
do a show where we all just play Disney villains getting together for lunch?
Oh.
The Descendants, but it's their parents, and it's just lunch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I thought about this, I really liked a show that I think we've all taken part of, I don't remember, but where Natasha Ransom would print out haunted doll listings from eBay.
Yes.
And we would just read them. The first time we read them would be like on stage, and it was great. And I've always thought, like, is there a way to do a show where we then play the haunted dolls?
Mm-hmm.
And I would, in full costume, full makeup. That's the other thing I'd watch Alicia's Witstead do, is do a full costume, full makeup haunted doll show.
Yeah.
And because I'd watch you play 8 different haunted dolls. I would.
I would enjoy that.
Alicia, I always wanted to watch you bake in the baking show. I always wish that you had an opportunity to bake. Because you are a great improviser, but not someone who bakes.
No, I am not someone who bakes or even really cooks, for that matter.
Right.
I think it would be interesting to try, because I think I would have a lot of trouble with it, which would be an interesting challenge.
Yeah, it'd be fun. All right, well, we're going to sign off for now. Thank you so much, both Doug and Alicia, for sitting down and chatting about improv past, present, and future. And I hope that you are having fun, hanging out, and I hope to see you soon. And everyone else, thanks for tuning in and watching Behind the Laughs. And we're going to be every other Sunday. So if you have questions that you'd like asked, people that you want interviewed, or topics that you want discussed, you can post a comment to the internet somewhere and I'll find it, I suppose, or you can email me or whatever. I don't know how anything works. But anyway, and you can also check out more information about Jet City at jetcityimprov.org. Thanks for showing up. Bye.
Thank you, Laura.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Bye.